Hello everyone, welcome to our first ever live session on the channel in the year 2023. Let me start by saying a very happy new year to all our viewers, whoever is watching this live or in the replay mode. Do let me know in the comments if my audio is clearly here, you're able to hear it or not. I can see that we already have quite a few people waiting in the lobby and you're all jumping onto the stream. And I've been kind of watching your messages just as I got up and was getting ready for the stream. But it is good to see all that love and enthusiasm and interest to learn today. So I have got a beautiful show prepared for you, and I am just waiting to start. Priya says, yes, it's clear. That is all I need to know, because if you can't hear me, then this is going to be a really wasteful 80 minutes. All right. As I said, Happy New Year to all of you. Thank you so much for joining me for this live stream. Today, we are going to talk about top 10 advanced Excel tricks for data analysis situations. So the goal is to introduce some of the newer things that are added into Excel, as well as reintroduce or make sure that you're not missing out on some of the old but really powerful features that are available in Excel for you when it comes to data analysis. I have got a sample file prepared for you. Please check the video description. The link for this file has already been updated, and grab a copy of the file, especially if you would like to follow along while the stream is going. Alternatively, you can also sit back, relax, take some notes, participate in the conversation, and go from there. All right. Let's see, where everybody is joining. We have got about 300 people on the stream. So this is already, everybody is ready to go. But I just want to give shout outs to all our viewers. Greg from Columbia, Maryland, USA says hello. Hi, Greg. And Emma says hi from London, UK. And Nitin says hello from Sydney, Australia. Wow, Sydney. I mean, it's 5 a.m. in New Zealand right now. So Sydney must be what, 2, 3 a.m. I really admire your dedication, Nitin. Thank you so much for joining live from not so comfortable time zone. And Suraj says, greetings from India, Hyderabad. Hi, Suraj, greetings as well. Yeah, thank you so much for joining. I mean, we have got people from all over the world. Hello from Indonesia. Doni says that. Hi, Doni. And we've got one more from Indonesia, from Jakarta, Fami. And a few people from Saudi or Middle East as well. So it's so good to meet you all again in the live stream. The last one was in October, so I had like a good 3-month break, and it's good to get started. All right. So while I get set up for my files and everything, I want to ask the most important question. What are you drinking? So let me know, what is it that you're drinking right now as you're about to enjoy the session. I just went downstairs and I made myself a big cup of coffee. We bought this coffee powder when I went to India during the Christmas New Year break, and we really liked this coffee because this is what everybody in India was drinking when we were there, and we were like, we gotta get these coffee powders. So that's what I'm having. Jyoti says I'm having water, and Karan is having hot water as well. Ooh, hot water. It's probably because it's winter time in India, so usually that some very interesting answers here. Rick says banana spinach protein smoothie. Ooh, that sounds yummy. And Manish Bhati says, like a true Indian chai or tea. Oh well, that's obviously a good choice as well. And Kamaruddin says having nothing. Oh, that's an option as well. You don't have to have something. Amandeep Shah says paper. I hope you're not drinking that, but Aaron says orange juice from Costco. That's all good. All right. Keep your answers flowing. I'm going to go and just set up my computer monitor here, move this to the other screen, and get into Excel. All right. So okay. So this is the sample file that I have uploaded on my YouTube, as well as I put a link into the video description. So if you would like to follow along, download this file. The link for this is in the video description, and you can follow along. This file has just some sample data and 10 blank spreadsheets where each trick will be explained. So the agenda for today is kind of do a quick roundup on the new dynamic array functionality in Excel. This has been around for a good 2 years now, but it is still quite a bit surprising to me in the real world. When I show this to people, they're like, wait a sec, Excel can do this now. So I thought I'll start the day off by kind of showing what this dynamic array functionality is all about and how it relates to data analysis work. And then introducing the new text processing functions. These are newer, probably introduced in the last 6 months or so. I don't even have any videos on this in my channel yet, but I would like to showcase some of them and just share one or two simple use cases. And then talk about how to do forecasting, but not with building complex models and all, just one click, and how to build forecasting in Excel, how it works, how to improvise it later on, how to use the quick analytics feature in Excel when you are in a rush and you would like to produce something quickly, how to use that, how to work with conditional formatting so that you can analyze the data, you can present insights, or you can get a sense of what's going on. And then talk about Power Pivot. That's the next two things. And then these two are kind of related to pivot tables and pivot charts, and working with those things. So it's kind of like a mix of formulas, formatting, and pivot tables. So we cover like the entire ground of how you normally work with Excel and how we can use all of these tools to make our lives better and analyze the data. All right, excited? Let's go. I'm gonna quickly check in the chat to see if there is any interesting comments, and then we'll go. Jennifer says the link for download file is not working for me. Maybe it's just me. It could be you, because I have not had anyone else put that comment. I'm gonna. Yes, others are able to download. So I'm guessing this is just a temporary thing. So there's one other question which is around this line. Will it be uploaded in YouTube, Chandu? Uh, it's going to be there on YouTube for a while. I would like to keep my streams uploaded and be available in the long run as well. So that is usually how most of the stream videos have been. It's just that because anything can happen in the stream. So if I'm not 100% happy with the way the content is delivered or got completely derailed with your questions during the stream, then I might take it offline. So if you're already here, stick around, watch this thing. But if you are like got up in the middle of the night to catch this and you're not able to stay up, feel free to go back to sleep. But otherwise, enjoy the show now or come back and see it online. You have the link, so check it again tomorrow or day after. If it's still there, watch it. Hopefully it will be there. And if you're watching it in the replay, again, feel free to say hello to me in the comments and let me know if you've got any other questions. All right. And then this is probably another question, especially if you have never attended the live stream before and this is the first time you're coming. So the sample file that I have provided right now that is in the video description is a blank data file. It has the data, it has the layout, but none of the actual stuff is there. When the stream finishes, I would have built another file in my computer. Whatever that is, I'll upload it as well. So you have both blank file and the completed workbook in the video description for you to download. So this way you will be able to see the progress, as well as if you're following along and you got stuck at some point, you know you have a reference point to look at. So both files will be there, but the second file will only be ready after the stream is done because I don't know what we are going to build. All right, let's get started. Feel free to put your questions as I explain things, but if the question is not directly related to the topic that I'm discussing, I will not be able to help you out. Also, it would be quite helpful if you put Q at the start when you're asking a question. You can put any other comments there as well, but if you have got a question, please put Q at the beginning so that I can spot it. I'll try to answer as many questions as possible. But again, if I do not answer your question, please do not repeat. It will be a major inconvenience for everybody else, as well as it will distract me when I'm explaining. So if you ask a question, I didn't get to you, that is fine, leave it out. I'll check that again later when the stream is finished, and I might be able to put an answer for you later. All right, on that note, let's go. These are the 10 things, and this is the sample data for us, where we have got the usual suspect awesome chocolates data set. We have some sales data for the year 2022 and the month of December 2021. So 13 months of sales data is here, and some mapping tables as well that tell us additional information. So for example, here I have got a product called raspberry chocolate. If I want to know what category this product belongs, I do not have that information in this table. I need to take raspberry chocolate and then go here, find that this is actually a bar category product, as you can see here. So if I want to, for example, understand how many bars we have sold, what is the total number of boxes we have shipped for bars, or how much is the sales volume in the month of December 2021, I would not be able to directly answer that question because only part of the information is here, the other is here. So I need to mix these two tables before I can get to that answer. So this is something that we will address later during the video. But this data is fairly standard made up data set of a chocolate company that sells bulk chocolates to customers across the world, and that information is here. All right, let's talk about the very first one before excuse me excuse me before even we talk about the number one thing, There is a tip number 0, which is to maintain the data in a structure and format that is more suitable for data analysis. So these two data sets are arranged in Excel tabular formats. So table is a way in which you can structure the data. Table or tabular format refers to maintaining the data in a named structure called table, so that you can work with your entire data together rather than individual cells. Whereas this data here is not in a table. It looks like it's in a table, but it's not in a table. It's in a simple cell range. So if I want to, for example, add these sales, I would write a formula that says E5, which is my first cell. So sum of E5 to E7395. So if this is a very, very simple thing, nothing mysterious. But if I want to have total sales, I would say sum of E5 to, and then, basically select what's going on here. Like that. And then that would be $21 million as the answer, E5 to E3795. So these kind of formulas are only possible because we have not put this data into a tabular format. Likewise, if I am referring to this data elsewhere, or if I am using it in a pivot table or anything else, I would always have to remember the cell address of this data. Whereas for this, I don't need to do that. There are no numbers here, but if I want to count how many products are there, I could say count A, and I can say M5 to M whatever that M26, but the moment you select the full thing, you'll see that it will be called products table, product column. So I don't need to know how long this table is, where it begins, where it ends. I don't need to know none of that. I'll directly refer to this data by the name of the column within the table name. So the table name is products and the column name is product. So that is one of the key advantages of using tables. There are many other advantages, but this is the biggest selling point for me. Your formulas tend to be more natural language like. So here, to make sure that our data is in a friendly format for us to write analysis and think about analysis without worrying about the cell addresses and everything, we need to turn this guy into a table format. So that's the tip number 0. If you have been already doing this with your data, that is all good. But if you have not tried tables, or you're one of those people who are not really sure what tables are, this is your chance to pick up that particular technique and start implementing it pretty much everywhere in your data analysis situations. So to make this into a table, select any one cell in this continuous data group and press Ctrl T. T for T. Here it would work. It's not really working as I intended because it's picking up the total row as well. So I'm going to cancel that out and delete the total on the top, and let's try it again. Ctrl T. So now it picked up the data correctly, including the header row, and it says create a table. When you're doing this, make sure that you have my table has headers option enabled. If you do have a header row like this. If you do not have a header row, that's not a problem. And then just check that box there, and then once this is done, you click OK, and this gets turned into a table. When you have a table, you get to name it as well. So here is my table name. That's the table name there, and you can give it a name there. Right now it is called table 3. I'm gonna name this as sales in small letters. Better take a sip of water. And so now that we have done the tip number 0, I'm gonna hide my face and just focus on the screen, but I'll come back and show my face. I'm still here. It's just that way we have more real estate for the spreadsheet. Let me quickly take a look at some of these questions as well. So which version of Excel should we use? Right now I'm using Excel 365. For following along, you can use Excel 365, but if you are using an older version, you will not be able to apply tip number 1 and 2, which require 365. So keep that in mind. I'll again mention that when I get there, but tables have been around since Excel 2007. So if you're using even a very old version of Excel, you should be able to make your data into a table format. Murad says, can we support the channel? You can, and if you really enjoy what I do, feel free to please do that. You can use the super chat option, which should be available in the chat messages, to send a super chat or a super sticker if you want to. Again, not necessary to participate in the live stream. Just feel free to do it if you would like to. All right, I'm gonna hide this guy as well. Okay, so we have set up the data in table format. There are 3 tables now. This is sales table, this is products table, and this is the people table. For our initial stuff, we are just going to use the sales table, and dynamic array functions is our first example. For this particular thing, we are going to work with a shorter version of the sales table, simply because the sales table has around 3000 odd rows. But when you're explaining that, probably 20 rows is enough to understand what is really going on. So I'm going to go here, grab this much data. This is 20 people. Control C and come here, Control V. This will come up as not a table, but just as the data. And let's just make this nice and wide, these guys as well. And then Control T this as well, make it, and I'll call this as sales 20 because it just has 20 people's data. So we have some sample data here. Let's understand how to use this with the dynamic array functionality of Excel. What is this dynamic array functionality? It sounds like a complicated thing and something that is not for people who are starting with Excel, but it is for like somebody who's an advanced user or like that. But the reality is dynamic array functionality is something that everybody should be using in Excel, because it changes the way the calculations are done, and it changes the way you think and work with the data. A simple example is, let's just say you have got this data here, sales 20, and you would like to have a copy of this somewhere here. Now, one way to copy this is Control C to copy and Control V to paste. But the problem with this method is you would lose the connection between the two datas. So if something changes on the original data, then this copied data will not have that extra changes because you have copy pasted. So a better way to copy is to keep the original data as it is, but get it there as a reference. But we don't know how big this data is. Right now there is 20 rows, but tomorrow there could be 25 rows or 16 rows. So how do we make sure that it grows and shrinks as this data changes? So this is where the dynamic array functionality comes into picture. You will go where you want to have the new data and then type equal to and then sales 20, the name of the table. Now, if you have done any kind of formulas in Excel prior to this session, you'd know that by default Excel formulas are allowed to have only one value at a time, the result of the formula. But you see that here sales 20 is not a one value, it is an entire table, like it has 20 rows and 6 columns. So how is it going to work? This is what the dynamic array functionality is really all about. When you type this and press enter, Excel sees that there is more data, so it automatically takes all of the data and it will spill this data down and sideways to make sure that you get as much data as you as your original thing has. So that's what dynamic array functionality in Excel refers to. It is the feature of Excel where your formulas can grow or shrink based on how much data there is. So when you are using this, you will be able to now start thinking for your formulas as all the inputs for your formula as not just single values, but more like I got data here, I need to do this on that and get the output here. This particular example where you're copying the data is not really a practical scenario. I mean, this is a good starting point to understand what this is all about, but you will not really use it in a day-to-day business situations. Very rarely this kind of thing happens. So what is a more relevant or a practical thing? Let's just say here I have got some information and I would like to know in a column here which rows had more than let's just say $5,000 as sale. We can add a column here. If I am adding a column here, I would write an if formula, but if I'm writing it outside, I just want to know for these 20 rows which had more than 5,000 or less than 5,000. We can write an if formula like this. If select this guy is greater than 5,000, yes, no, and this will only work here. To get the results further down, you need to drag this down and then do it like this. So then it will get yes, no for everything, which is one way of doing. But because we have now the dynamic capabilities in Excel, you can also do this. You can say if and then select the entire column instead of any single cell. So right now I picked all of these values. Is greater than 5,000. Yes, no. Now here the formula, the if formula, the first part, the condition is not one condition, but it is actually a collection of all of the values there. And then when you select all of this and put that there, and when you say this, you'll get all the yes, no answers directly. The beauty of this is this thing is dynamic. So if I have more information in the table, right now we only have this much, but let's just add one more here. I'm going to put my name after nines and then 3,000 there. You'll see that as soon as I did this, I actually had my corresponding row here added, because the dynamic array now saw, oh, there's more items here. I'm going to grow this guy and expand it out. So that's what dynamic array functionality in Excel refers to. It adds a special way for all the formulas in Excel so that when you are doing analysis or when you are working with the data, you don't have to think about individual things anymore. You will have the capability to work with the whole chunks of data and work on all of that. Let me show you one more example and then I'll move on to the next one, which is I have got sales here and I would like to offer a 3% commission to each transaction. So, but I want to have that 3% if the sale is more than 5,000, else 2%. Under 5,000, you get 2%. More than 5,000, you get 3%. So to do that kind of calculation and calculate all these individual bits, you can simply say if the sales column is greater than 5,000, then sales column times 3%. We can simplify this formula if we want, but I'm just not going to bother. Sales column times 2%. So instead of yes or no, here we are multiplying with 3%, here we are multiplying with 2%. So again, two different ranges or arrays are what we are giving. When you hit enter, you will do relevant multiplication and you will get the corresponding answer. So for example, 8,400 would be 84 times 3, so roughly 252. That checks out. 532, 2% of that is 10.64, so that also checks out. So you can see that all these calculations are done beautifully by Excel, and one go you get your results. So that's what dynamic array functionality of Excel refers to. As I said, this particular feature It has been around for a good 2 years now, but because many people are just now moving to Excel 365, chances are you may not be aware that this kind of a thing is available to you in Excel. If you have been upgraded from Excel 2016, 2013, or whatever version that your organization was using previously to 365, suddenly you would think everything is same, but in reality, all of these extra things are added to you to make your life simple. So start thinking about these things. There are other videos on my channel where I go deeper into dynamic arrays. In fact, one of my very first live streams was on dynamic arrays. So feel free to check the previous live streams and watch the dynamic array live stream that I did 18 months ago. I plan to do another one if there is enough interest, maybe in subsequent months. So also let me know in the comments and chat if you want to see a proper dynamic array session where we go much more into this. But this is that. There is also articles and other stuff. I'll update the stream description with those things as well. So do check this thing and understand more about how this would impact your workflow, what additional things it is going to introduce. Like there is a new operator for you now in Excel called the hash operator, how to use that. And there is a whole bunch of functions that are added as part of this update, how they can also help and simplify your work. Let's just see some questions here. William says, does dynamic array overwrite any cell that has data in it? In other words, while it automatically growing. So this is a very good question. Let's just see what happens if there is something in the way of this dynamic array. So we already have stuff here. I'm going to put some 200 as a number here. So print yellow color there, you'll see that there is a number here. I'm just gonna change this, and the moment I add stuff here like something else, I will lose all of it and I'll get a new error message called spill error. This is what Excel is telling me, that it is trying to spill the formula, spill it down, but there is something in its way. So it will highlight in dotted lines where it wants to go, and you can see visually what cell is stopping it. So it doesn't overwrite anything. It will always come back with the spill error so that you can take corrective action. So this is why when you are working with the dynamic arrays, you need to give them sufficient space. So plan your spreadsheets accordingly. Leave some space out, especially when you are using these. These are kind of like pivot tables. You know, pivot tables can also grow. So you normally leave some space out between pivot tables so that you don't accidentally get into overwriting errors and all of that. Same thing here. The moment you delete this, it will grow and, you know, work with that and show you what that new value would be. iZenMaster says, question, in the two examples looks like you will get the same results if your two columns were part of the sales 20. Not exactly sure what that means by same results, or which two examples you're mentioning. And Paula says, happy Friday. You all remember to like this awesome training by Shandu. Yeah, that's a good thing as well. If you're enjoying it so far, give this video a like so that YouTube can show it to more people that are interested in this. But thanks, Paula, for that. Wanda says, I am confused how to differentiate between dynamic array formulas and normal formulas. So this is kind of like it's a very interesting question, but the answer to this is a little bit more philosophical than it sounds. With the way they have rolled out dynamic array functions, it kind of applies to all the functions and all the formulas that you write. So there is no more normal functions in Excel. pretty much everything is dynamic. But one way to identify what is a dynamic function, what is the function that is spilling and what is the function that is not spilling is, if you have such a function, whenever you select any cell in the spill range, so here I have selected this thing, you will see there is a blue rectangle around it with a little bit of shadow effect here. So you see the blue rectangle that goes around it. This is a dynamic function. So anytime a formula that you have which is spilling to more than one cell, you will have this nice blue rectangle around it. And that is your clue that here is a formula that is spilling to more than one cell. But if it doesn't spill, or if it is a single formula that returns single value, then that blue rectangle is not shown. So you know that that's not a dynamic formula. Second way is you can also read the formula, then you will know that, oh, this looks like it's gonna return multiple values. And you will build that expertise over time. Once you understand what these are and how to use them, over time you know, oh, this is a dynamic one, this is not a dynamic one. All right, there's a few more questions, but I think we should move on to the next ones. But I'll come back and see if I can address some of these other questions. Sometimes some of these questions would be addressed in the follow-up parts of the presentation as well. So let's go to the second one, and time for me to hide myself, and then talk about the new text processing functions. So these are, again, I don't really think of any new functions as new dynamic functions anymore. All the functions are dynamic, so new functions. But Excel introduced some functions for us that will help us work with text data much more easily. So for the sake of simplicity, I'm gonna grab some of these names and paste them here. These are my salesperson names. And I want to be able to, for example, just extract the first name or last name or, or something like that. So to do this, the older way of doing this would be you will find where the space is and then use either left or mid or right formulas to extract the text values that are on either side. But with the Excel 365, in the newer updates, they have added these text functions. You can see that if I type text, I'll see all of these beautiful functions there. These functions, text after, text before, text join, text split. And using these functions, text join has been around for a while, but these other after, before, and split are added recently. We can take the text and split it or get the part before or after quite easily. So let's just do a simple example for now. I want to get text before. So start with this text and my delimiter is space. So that'll give me any text before the space, the first text, like that. All the information comes through. So generating kind of first names becomes a simple task because we are using the text before function. Likewise, text after is same thing again and space. Now you notice that when I wrote this, it only worked in that cell and I had to click and drag this down. But you can also use dynamic array option. So you can select this entire thing and then say, for this entire text, give me what is after the space, and that'll basically spill the formula down, but calculate according to individual bits there. So it will generate the after things. Text split works exactly like that, but it will split the text, and if there is multiple splits, then it will generate a spill range. So for this, I'm gonna write a sentence here, and then we will split that. So this is kind of like a little bit cheeky, but if you are enjoying this, like the video. So that's my text, and I want to split this so that each word is in one cell. So we can use the text split for this. Text split this text and then space as my delimiter, and you will see that it saw that there is multiple spaces. So for each space it would split and you will get all of them into separate cells. So that's what text split does. I'm particularly excited about the text split functionality because what it means is we can use this to split and extract data out in a much more meaningful manner if you have got some very complicated or weird data in your situations. A classic example would be sometimes when I download the data from some systems, there would be like a course system where I'll know for this course who are the people signed up. So the course name will be in one cell, and then all the email addresses that have signed up for that course would go into the other cell. So if there's 5 people interested in that course, all the 5 email addresses are in the same cell, but they are delimited by a comma or something like that. So then what I would do is I will use text split to split it out so that they go like this. You might think this is cool, but I don't want it to go like this. Can we have the data go down? So let's try the text split again. Text split this. You notice that there is many parameters. We have not been using all the parameters. So you have got a column delimiter, you have got a row delimiter. So instead of column delimiter, if I say space as the row delimiter, I'll get the same values, but they got split into rows. You can use both of them as well. That will get into more complex scenarios. Again, I leave this with you for further investigation. So play with this. Keep in mind that both the dynamic arrays and the text processing functions are only available in Excel 365. So if you're using an older version of Excel, you are not able to apply these things directly in your Excel. One cheat way of doing these in Excel in any version is instead of using the desktop Excel, you can open your browser. In the address bar, type excel.new, and this will open Microsoft Excel. It will log you into your account if you have one, and it will open a blank spreadsheet in the browser, and then here you can use all the functions. So if you go to this here, and then you can say text split, it is available in the browser version of Excel. So especially those of you who are interested to practice these things, but somehow you are a couple of waves behind the update or whatever, you can go to the browser version and practice all of the functions, assuming you have an account with Microsoft. If you don't have, you need to create one, either OneDrive account or something, and then use that. So this is one way to practice, but for regular use, you would need Excel 365 anyway. So Jimmy says this is good for n-grams. Perfect, exactly, a very good use case. This is what I've been using in a client situation where we have got lots of text data, and it needs to be processed and analyzed in a more structured manner. In my earlier scenarios, a few years back, I've always used Python to do that analysis. But now, because that we're not doing exhaustive analysis, it just needs to be done at a better level than what is previously possible. Now I'm using text functions to do the initial analysis, and only when I find something interesting, I then take that and put it into programming systems. So if you're having either somebody seems to be having some issues with the quality and all of that, Make sure that you set it to the maximum quality possible in YouTube. There's like a gear button on the screen somewhere. Click on it and set it to highest quality possible. The stream goes out in 720p, so if you just change it to that, you should be seeing pretty decently. Sandeep says thanks Anaya, which means thank you brother. Thanks to you as well, Sandeep, for watching and enjoying this. All right, so that is the number two. Number one is dynamic array functionality. Number two is text functions. Now let's go and talk about the third one, which is one-click forecasting. This one will be a lot quicker. So I would like to ideally cover all the 10 things. So I'll kind of move a little bit faster in between to make sure that we are able to finish the agenda for the day. But I'll see and help your questions as and when I get a chance. So here we have recently opened, Awesome Chocolates has opened a donut business as well. And one of our donuts, the jam donuts, we're not really sure if this particular flavor is working with our audience or not. So we asked one of our analysts to get just the jam donut sales data for the first 18 days of 2023 and put it into the spreadsheet here from one particular store. So this is what it gives me. And I want to know, what is the future for jam donuts looking like? Are these sales trending upwards, downwards? If so, what would the next 2 weeks look like? Very, very simple thing. And this kind of analysis is where forecasting comes into picture. Given some dates and some values, what would be the future values look like? Again, keep in mind that any kind of actual business forecasting that you do, whether you're using Excel or some programming language tools or some machine learning, anything, it doesn't matter. You need to have a proper understanding of real world, how things work in real world, and then map as much as possible out in your model. Only then you will get kind of semi-accurate results. Even then, even with all of that, any forecasting is garbage only. It doesn't really matter because the real world is almost always unpredictable. But it's a good idea to build forecasts, and this is a big part of many business analysis. So we build forecasts so that we are prepared for anything that could potentially happen. But even then you will have to prepare more than that. So with that note out of way, given this, how do we forecast in Excel? Excel has many forecasting functionalities, but my favorite of all is the one-click forecast that is built into Excel. To get this, you select the data and then you go to the data ribbon, and here is your forecast sheet functionality. So you can use this and readily forecast your data. Just select it, click on this, Excel will do the rest. So I'm going to show this to you. Select this data, and then forecast sheet. And Excel shows me that you have got like a sawtooth pattern going on with your donut sales. So you can expect that it would continue this. Okay. And there's some options here. I'm going to mess with these options for fun. For example, it's ending the forecast on 22nd of Jan. I would like to end it all the way up to the end of the month. Because there is quite a bit of variability in the data, the forecast also has that variability built in. It will go up and down. That's what it says. But it will also give you some confidence intervals. Again, it has no idea about donuts. These could be any numbers. It doesn't matter. You can put donut there. You can put auto parts there. You can put customer complaints there. The forecast will be exactly same for all of those. And you can also ask Excel to detect the seasonality automatically. This is the fun part, especially with real world business data. I find that this is quite helpful. For example, if I have a feeling that our donuts have a 7-day seasonality, so they usually have more sales on Mondays and Tuesdays, and then they go down. On Friday, they pick up again. Saturday, Sunday, they go down, and then that pattern repeats. Let's just say that is the seasonality. So instead of detect automatically, I can nudge the model and then I can say use 7 days as a season. So at this point, it will try to understand the trend and then it will repeat that trend along with that seasonal pattern and it will create this forecast. If you're happy, you can create, and this will create all the necessary calculations and the visuals for you with all of the forecasting built in. We can see that it looks like the future for jam donuts is trending down. So it won't be long before these will reach like 0 donuts on average basis very soon. Again, the computer has no idea about donut business. But this kind of tells me that probably this particular product should be discontinued, or we should investigate further and see if it's just that particular store's problem or all stores are experiencing similar things or whatnot. But the forecasting aspect of it is built with one click. You select the data, click it, you get it, boom. So my suggestion to you is study this particular spreadsheet, because actual forecasting is not calculated by Excel. It is done by writing the formula. So Excel writes the formulas for you. So if you select these cells, you'll see that Excel has built the formula for us. So study these formulas and then see what they are doing and how you can improvise them for your own situations. So yeah, Darcy says you entered 7 for 7 days. Yeah, so you just type 7 or 12 or 16 or whatever is your seasonality, and then it will automatically use that. The button is in the data ribbon. The video is on YouTube, so in case you missed a step or something, feel free to kind of rewind back a few minutes and you will be able to see what exactly I have clicked, and then go from there. Okay, so that is the third one, doing a one-click forecasting. Let's do the fourth one as well. This is called quick analysis. Many times in Excel or any situation wherever you're using data, you have two kinds of things going on. One is more elaborate analysis where you have a defined task and you will spend days or weeks or months building the analysis, calculating things and producing outputs and then go for it. But the second kind of thing is you just get a call or a message or the Teams call or whatever from your boss saying, hey, I want this quick. Just tell me, I'll hold the line or I'll wait for you to respond. So in that case, you want to get the results out just that instant. You don't want to waste 3 hours building a model, doing all these things and all of that. So this is where I like the quick analysis feature of Excel. It can do some of that quick analysis for you if you use it right. So how do we use this quick analysis? I'm gonna again take this data here, put this there so that we can do some quick analysis. So here I have got sales, boxes, expenses, etc. And I've got some numbers. I want to know what is the running total of this is. So sales running total I want. And I would like to introduce that, or maybe for expenditure, what is the running total? Anytime you have data, you select it, you will have this little button at the bottom, the quick analysis button. This looks a bit annoying, so not many people click on it, but if you click on it, you'll see that Excel can do most of the common things that you do as part of analysis automatically. So for example, it can set up data bars for you. Just one click. You don't have to go to home, conditional formatting and set that up. Click here and then add data bar. Boom. That is done. Likewise, you can add totals. So this is my favorite thing. And when you click on the totals, your Excel will crash. Oh God, this is fun. Hasn't happened in many days. Hopefully there is a, that's the one. All right, let's try again. This time I'll save this file, making sure. Okay, select this. Why are you selecting all of that? And then click, go to totals. Ooh, we are able to reproduce a bug here. Ah, really? We'll try one more time. If it doesn't work, I'll give up at that point. So I'll paste it outside. It could be just that the tables had this issue, but we'll select these and then click here, totals. Oh yeah, that works. So it could be just some weird table thing going on. And then from here, I can add lots of different totals. So you can add a grand total at the bottom, you can add average, count, etc. The bit that I really like is the running total aspect. If you go totals and go all the way to the side, you will have running total here, which will write the necessary formula here that will generate running total. So here the total is this, here the total is these two cells, so it'll add up these two and put that there. And for example here it adds up all these cells and then put that total there. So that's what a running total is. It's quite useful in many situations, but the formula for this looks a little bit funny. So you have to keep your sum formula, the first part as absolute and the second part as relative. So not many people are aware of building such a formula. So they'll think, oh, running total, I'll need to write individual formulas. But you can use this and it will write the formula for you. And then you can also learn how that is done. And next time you could use that for something else. So that is the quick analysis. So sometimes you get questions and you want to get the answers quickly. You can go and see. You can use this to build a chart, turn this into a table, insert spark lines. All of those things are readily available from the running quick analysis. The shortcut for this is Control Q. So Q for quick analysis. So feel free to try Control Q on your data and then get that. Venkat says, oh, your Excel also gets crashed. I was wondering it's me too. So everybody's Excel is crashing when you have a table and you select that and you go and do the running quick analysis. This looks like a good one. I'm going to report it to Microsoft and then see if they're aware of this. Vanda says, how do you select the cell where you want the quick analysis results? The quick analysis results are, like the name says, quick, so there's not much customization available. They'll always go into whatever cell Excel thinks is appropriate. So running totals will go to the next column, grand totals will go under, like that. So it's not much customization there. It's for like quick and dirty stuff, really. All right, so that is the number 4. Number 5 is conditional formatting. This is again one of my favorite features of Excel, where you have got some data and you want to highlight relevant bits as per the analysis you're doing. So most of the basic conditional formatting most people would know. So instead what I want to do is I want to share one or two interesting examples that will give you a peek into the potential of conditional formatting, especially if you know formulas. Remember earlier we were talking about sales being more than 5,000 or under 5,000. So one way to do this is we could write that if formula and get that. But the numbers are already here. Why instead of introducing a new column, can't we highlight where the value is more than 5,000? So this is another way of using conditional formatting. So what I can do is I can select this column and then home conditional formatting. And this is a simpler case, so we don't even need to write any formulas here. You can simply say highlight and then greater than, less than, etc. So for example, I want to highlight greater than 5,000 and then that'll highlight all the values. Here is a small fun trick to begin the conversation on conditional formatting, which is this one is hard coding 5,000. But what if I want to see based on an input value? So I'll type 5,000 in a cell and then select these guys, conditional formatting highlight. In fact, it's already there. So I'm going to go to manage and select this, double click. And where this says equal to 5,000, instead of saying that value there, I'll point to the cell where we have that. So you can see that this is K5. K5 has my typed in number. And then when you click OK, it doesn't really change, but now the rule is dynamic. So if I change my number, if I want to see everybody more than 6,000, I can type that and then automatically some people drop off. Likewise, if I put 10,000, more people will drop off and only the things that matter get highlighted. So this is a very useful trick in itself, where even the built-in rules that you have, conditional formatting, we can kind of use that cell to determine which values are higher and highlight that. The problem with all of this is whatever we type, it only highlights the sales column. Let's just say I'm not really interested in highlighting here. I want to highlight that entire row. I want to see what product it is, which person has sold it, what date it is, what has happened with the boxes and expenses and everything. So I want to see the full picture. I want that entire row get highlighted. This is where you're not able to do that with that thing alone. So you need to know how to build a formula with conditional formatting. So I'm gonna build this again. This time you'll select the entire data. So all the data that you want to highlight, you'll pick that first. Go to conditional formatting, new rule. And instead of using any of the first 5, we will use the last option, which is use a formula to determine which cells to format. And here you have to write a formula which would be true for the cells that you want to highlight. So you need to think what formula will be true if the entire row has to be highlighted. So the formula needs to be, it needs to check the sales column, which will be column F. So it needs to check column F, and if the value is more than 10,000, then it should highlight. But irrespective of whether we are highlighting the name or product or date, it should always check column F. So that means the reference has to be written in such a way that it will always look at column F irrespective of which cell we are highlighting. So the formula here would be equal to $F5 greater than $K $5. Okay, I'll expand this out so you can see this formula. $F5 greater than $K $5. So $F means it will always lock to column F. F is the only one that we are checking, but 5 would change to 6 or 7 because each row needs to check its corresponding column F. Irrespective of where we are checking, we should always check with the 10,000. So that's why the K $5 is an absolute reference because it's locked to column K. Once you do this, you can set up the formatting as well. So I'll fill this with the gold color and make the font bold. So we'll have like that. And when you click OK, you now have this kind of a formatting added wherever it's more than 10,000. And you can change this because it's an input cell. So if I put 3,000, I'll get this. If I put 12,000, I'll get these rows. So this is how I normally use conditional formatting in data analysis situations. I build some input cells to control what needs to be highlighted, and then I change them, or I link them to a slicer or a data validation so my end users can modify these things, and then everything will fall into place. All right, let's just see if there are any questions. William says a lot of times that as the table grows, the conditional formatting doesn't extend to the newly added rows. Is that a common concern, and how do we avoid that? This is a common problem because currently conditional formatting is not aware of the tables. I could be wrong because last I checked it is still not aware. But because Microsoft is also aware of this, they are working on improving the capability of conditional formatting. So it might not be the case anymore. Let's just test this out, see what happens if I put a new row with 13,000. Oh, it gets highlighted. So something is happening now, which was not the case earlier. So even though the rule here is saying it is applying to C5 to H25, which is the fixed range, somehow it is picking up the new row and adding it and updating this. But here it doesn't say table name. It's actually pointing to the physical range. So conditional formatting is not yet aware of the table presence, but internally something is happening where the rules are getting updated when there is a new row added. So that's a welcome addition, but ideally I would love to write my table names here and write my table formulas here rather than F5 and K5. I don't want to say F5, I want to say @sales so that it picks up that and uses that automatically. But probably that is not something that is available to us right now. It will be added in future because I remember reading some news from Microsoft that says they are also improving the conditional formatting side of things. All right. Okay, so let's move on to our number 6, combine two tables. So 6 and 7 are kind of together, combining tables and then making pivot tables from them. So I'll show both of these together in one flow so that you all understand what the technique is and how it kind of translates to your pivot tables. At the start of the day, I mentioned that we have got in the sample data, we have this data. And if I want to do a combined analysis where I want to know how much sales are there, not just by product, but also by category, we are not able to answer that question just with this table alone because we don't know what the categories are for each of the products. So we'll need to take the Raspberry Choco, go here, combine that with bars to be able to do that. So one normal way people do this is they write a VLOOKUP or XLOOKUP or index match here, which will look up the Raspberry Choco, tell us what the category is, and then fill this down for all the rows. Once the category is here, then build a pivot table from that to do the analysis. But that gets long-winded and it's not a good idea, especially if you have got not just category, but maybe 17 other columns about the product here and you want to use them in some analysis, then you'll have to write that many different lookups. So it's not a good solution. So this is where the other feature of Excel that I'm introducing will be quite helpful, which is we know that the column C is column M. So they map out whatever product is here, it is also there. So it's the same column. Many of you, apart from working in Excel, you also work with databases and tables and all of that. So you understand the idea here. the column here in this table maps out to this column here on the other table. So as long as you have data like that, you can tell Excel how these things map out so that Excel understands your data better and it will be able to help you better. So this whole feature is called building a data model. It sounds complicated, but it's fairly simple. All you have is you have multiple tables. You tell Excel how this column here maps out to the other column there. To activate this, from home, go to data ribbon and you have the relationships button. Okay. So click on the relationship button and from here, click on new and set up a relationship. To do this, you must have your data in tables. So you cannot have data hanging around in cells. It has to be tables. This is the reason why I try to make tables to my data as well. Another good reason why you should use tables, because without tables, you're not able to capitalize on these features. So the table here is sales table, column is product, and it maps out to the products table, product column. Okay, so that's the relationship. Let's zoom it out a little bit like that, and then so this is going here and this is going there. Okay, when you are mapping this, one thing to keep in mind is one table. So in this case, the mapping table here, this table, whatever products you have, all of these products need to be unique. So there should not be any duplicates. If 50% dark bytes has appeared once, it should not appear again in this table. On the other side here, you can have duplicates. So for example, I have got raspberry choco here. I also have raspberry choco here and maybe milk bars here duplicated. This doesn't matter. So one side needs to keep it unique. The other side can have duplicates. One common way of describing this is it's a many to one relationship. That means one side has many items that map out to same item on the other side. So once you set this up, click OK. And this is when Excel will build that data model, because once you have connected these two tables, that's the trigger point for Excel to build the data model. Let's do the same for salesperson as well. New salesperson maps out to people table, person column. So exactly the same, but this time we are mapping this column here with that column there. And when you click OK and close, internally we have now told Excel how these three tables are connected. This particular feature has been in Excel since 2013, so almost a decade now. It's a very old feature, but again, not many people realize that this is available because it's kind of buried somewhere in the screen. So it's not obvious that this is what it does, but that's what it does. And once you build, you have created a data model. So those of you who are learning Power BI or databases or something else along with Excel, you will realize that this is exactly like what you do in those worlds. So in fact, the underlying tool that we use here is called Power Pivot. It's the same that we use in Power BI. So again, you realize that both Excel and Power BI have this calculation engine called Power Pivot available to you all the time. It's not turned on by default. Once you set up, it gets turned on. You have built the model, you can go and use it to do the analysis. Here is a question from Bharat. He says, can we combine table if all table are in different sheets? It doesn't matter where they are. For the sake of simplicity, I kept everything in the same page so we can actually see the things with our eyes before we connect them. But they can be living in their own separate sheets. We can still connect. You can actually do more complicated stuff as well. I'm avoiding that for now. But even if the tables are in separate files, you can still connect them, assuming you're able to bring them here through Power Query and build them into the model. All right, so once this is done, that's the connecting the two tables part. They are now connected, but we are not able to see anything. Like, how can we use this connection? It is built, but how do I use it? So this is where the next one comes in, which is pivot tables plus plus. I call it pivot tables plus plus because that sounds better than what Power Pivot as a name tells. Most people are not familiar with Power Pivot, so they'll be like, oh, what is Power Pivot? Whereas they are familiar with pivot tables. So you think of this as an evolution of pivot tables. So here, if I put in a cell and then I want to use this data model to build the pivot tables, the normal way of inserting a pivot table is you would select the data and then you'll say insert me a pivot table. So I'll go insert pivot table. But we have already connected the table. So I want to use that connected setup to build my pivot. So this is where you go to an empty cell where you want your pivot table to be set up. And then from insert ribbon, click on the pivot table button. Instead of just selecting it, use the arrow and use the option from data model. The actual wording or the button will be different depending on which version of Excel you're using. But this particular feature of being able to connect tables and building pivot tables from it has been around for many years now. So we do this and then you'll get your usual pivot table thing. But now you see that instead of one table, you have all the tables that are available in your workbook. And here is the fun part. You see how these three tables have no line in the middle, and then all of these have this line going. This basically tells you that these three tables are connected together. So they are like one entity, whereas these others are not connected. So that's why there is a line separating them. So these three are connected. So that's why there's no line separating them. They're treated as one thing from a data analysis perspective. So from here, I can now go to products, take the category, put it here. For each category, each product, what is the total sales? So you'll build your pivot tables just as you normally would, but all the calculations will happen by synthesizing the data from multiple tables, combining them as needed, following the relationships and getting you the output. You can see how many boxes are there, like that. So this is the pivot table plus plus. It doesn't stop here. It goes even beyond. Let's just say you're looking at this and you're wondering, oh, I wonder what is the amount or sale per box for each of these products is. In the normal world, we are not able to add some additional calculations to pivot table. So we'll have to go and either do it outside, like here, we'll do this divided by this and then, drag this down. But the problem with this is it wouldn't really work when there is no values. Also, when your pivot table expands or shrinks, you'll have to readjust this. So, and sometimes you just want to see these numbers, but you don't want to see these guys. But if you delete them, then this will not work. So there is lots of problems with this. This is where the pivot tables plus plus or Power Pivot will give you more choices. Because you already have sum of sales and sum of boxes, you can build a new calculation that divides this with that and tells you what is the sale per box is. To add such calculations, you just right click on the table. So right click on the sales table, and then you have this special button called add measure. This thing is not available in in the regular pivot table. So here we are using full on Power Pivot to do this. And the measure name is sales per box. And here we already have those two things. So open the square bracket and then you will be able to point to sum of sales divided by sum of boxes. And you can set up a format code here and build that. We are now using the DAX language, the language of Power Pivot, to build all of this. It's a little bit out of scope, out of syllabus for us to talk about DAX in this video, but I do have other videos on the channel that talk about DAX and Power BI and Power Pivot in greater detail. So check that out. If you like the live stream format, there is a previous live stream that I did on Power Pivot. Check it out. You will understand this whole thing better. And when you add that, you will now have a sales per box measure added to the model. And you can bring that, you'll see the calculation here nicely working out as per your needs. And because it's a calculation, you don't need to have these guys physically. So you can take them out, and even then this calculation will work and provide you correct answers. All right, time for a little bit of light movement here. So Krishna says, you too love Rajnikant. Who doesn't? That's Rajnikant, by the way, the one behind me here. So Satya Kumar says, use calculation field to adding percentage. Not sure if everybody knows what calculation fields are, but these are like the old pivot table mechanism to add these kind of sales per box calculations to your pivot tables. But they're quite limited in what you can do and how you can use them. This is why I feel like the DAX and Power Pivot method is far superior. It will give you so many more options on working with your data and allow you to calculate so many more meaningful, useful and insightful things from your business data. So definitely check this one out. If you are thinking, my God, there is a lot of information in this stream. There's 10 things and we are only at number 7. I'm already overwhelmed. My suggestion is to focus on the 2 things that are really relevant. Number 1 is the dynamic array functionality. If you're using Excel 365, you should start incorporating these into your workbooks and use them as much as possible. The other day I did a training for one of our clients in Australia. So it was a remote session and it's a 2-day program, and because of the holidays and everything, so I did the training on Friday and the next one was on Tuesday. So there's like a couple of days gap. So Friday morning, the first thing that I presented was dynamic arrays, and I introduced them to the XLOOKUP function. Now, people who watch my channel regularly, you already know XLOOKUP, so you'll be like, that's not new. But many people in the organizations, when they're working and you don't take time out to learn, you will not realize that these things are available. So XLOOKUP is what I introduced. And then I told so many other things, Power Pivot included. But this is what one of the people did between Friday and the next session. Even though it was holidays, he got so excited with XLOOKUP, he went and changed all the VLOOKUPs and index matches and other complicated stuff they were doing in some of the existing workbooks to XLOOKUP. And that's what he told me on Tuesday, next time I met them. that, hey, I replaced all these things with XLOOKUP now. They're all so much better. The formulas are shorter. Everything is working so much faster. So that is the key takeaway. Use dynamic arrays and start putting some of these newer functions into your workbooks. And the second thing is see if you can add Power Pivot to your pivot tables. Both of these will take you so much further. And there is a third hidden one, which is Power Query. We're not covering that here, but feel free to check my channel where other videos are there about Power Query. All right, let's William says, is there a shortcut to convert normal pivot table to Power Pivot? Sometimes you start off doing normal and then realize you could have done better if there is a Power Pivot. There is no shortcut. You take a sip of your strong coffee, take a deep breath, delete your pivot table and build it again. All right, so that brings us to 8 and 9. These two are also kind of related. We start off with 8 and then we'll translate into 9. And both of them feed off the pivot table. So whatever we built in step number 7, that's the feeding point for this. So let's just say you're doing some analysis. You built this out and I'm going to keep this as it is, but I'll copy this and paste it here. I'm going to take out the product. So we are looking at sales per box. So you made this and you want to present it for a meeting. But obviously a pivot table is good for doing the analysis, but it doesn't look pretty in a meeting setting. So you want to turn this into a graphical format. So you select anything and then you make a graph here. I'm gonna move that there. And then we'll get a sales per box graph. Let's just ignore the numbers for now and then let's look at just the graph. Looks like other category is twice as big as bars. This is one problem. This is not part of the actual narrative. I want to highlight what is going on here. Is it looks like other category has twice as much amount per box or sales per box than bars or bytes. That looks a bit dodgy. Upon closer inspection, you'll see that bars is $15.80. Bytes is $16 and this is only 17.4. So how come 17.4 is so much taller? This is because the column chart doesn't begin from 0. So this is something that Excel kind of does dodgily from time to time. It wouldn't begin your column charts from 0, which when you present, it can create wrong impression for your audience. So you need to select the axis, press Ctrl 1 to format it and make sure that the minimum of axis is always 0 when you are having a bar or a column chart. Now we get the correct impression. I'm gonna tidy this up and sales per box by category. All right, this is good. Let's just move this here and we'll forget about the formatting and all for now. So we made this and you went to the presentation, you showed it to your boss. Your boss was quite happy, but then she says, this is good, but can I see this by team? Then you're like, oh, what team? Then she says, we got 3 or 4 teams. Why don't you make a graph so that I can pick the team? So you might think, oh, this requires so much more work, but the reality is it's a lot simpler. All you have to do is, I'm gonna cut this, Control X, and put it here. And then go back to the pivot table. And from here, while looking at the field list, expand the people. I'll put it here so you can see. So expand the people and then right click on the team, add as slicer. So this will add the slicer. Again, you would have used slicers in a regular pivot tables or in some other situation. If not, a slicer is like a filter. If I click on a specific button here, my pivot table updates to show me what is the values for Delish team. So if I click Delish, this is how it looks. Tempo, this is how it looks. But the beautiful thing about the slicer is because the pivot chart is made from this pivot table, the slicer also talks to the pivot chart. So if I select this, let's just take the slicer and put it next to here. If I select a thing, I'll see my graphs update instantly. You can see that, the movement is not dramatic, but you can see that they do move a little bit depending on what you are picking. So this is what I mean by instant dynamic chart. Once you make the graph, especially pivot graphs, if you put a slicer onto the pivot table or to the pivot chart, it will automatically become dynamic. So you can use this to select one item at a time. You can hold down Control and select multiple items as well. You can select all of them by clicking and dragging, or you can click one item at a time. There's a couple of super chat stuff. I just want to acknowledge William has a super sticker. Thank you, William. And Kumar sends a super sticker as well, and then Vipin as well. Thank you. Thanks everyone for that love and support. And all right, so this is the number 8, which is instant dynamic chart. Now the ninth one is even better dynamic chart. So this is where we already have this. I don't want to move this whole thing to the new sheet. So I'll show this number 9 trick here. Is while this is doing its job, it could use a little bit better presentation. For example, especially with pivot charts, you'll have all of these buttons that look a little bit distracting or confusing from a presentation perspective. So one thing that we could do is select this, go to analyze, and you have got a field buttons option. If you click on that, those buttons are gone. So now it's a lot tidier. The second thing is that title. This title is a static title. So it says sales per box by category. So it will always say that. But I would love to have this title say sales per box by category for Delish team. Or a little bit more meaningful, like based on what is happening on the screen, I want the title to change. So how do I make the titles smarter and respond to what is happening on the screen? So this is a very interesting trick. It looks a little bit long-winded because of the setup that you need. But once you do it, and once you understand what's going on, you can use the same thing and make your dashboards and reports and presentations so much better. So we already have a pivot table that tells you what the values are, and you Control C to copy this pivot, paste it somewhere else. When you copy paste pivot, you'll get a copy of the pivot. But more importantly, if there is any slicers linked to this pivot, so this pivot here had a slicer, which is it's further down on the screen. So because I copy pasted, this pivot will also have that slicer linked to it. Copy pasted. So that's the one reason why I copy paste pivots, because then both of them will have the same slicer hooked up to them. Otherwise, if you create from scratch, you will have to set that up again. You might think, what's the point of this? So in this second pivot, I'm going to take out my category, take out sales per box, and instead put the team name there. So right now this says Delish. Make a note of that value, Delish. It's the same as what it says here. If I pick tempo, this will say tempo. If I pick yummies, this will say yummies. So this way we now have a cell on the spreadsheet. The cell is H6. A cell on the spreadsheet that tells me what team I am looking at. This is awesome. I can go to my design ribbon and turn off the grand totals for this pivot. And then use this H6 to generate my title. So here I'll make chart title. And team name is equal to this. And then wording would be, we can get more creative with this. I'll just show you simpler example, which is sales per box by category. So where, and then we will use that word. So we'll say equal to L6 ampersand Yummies sales per box. So that would be the title. But because H6 changes, whenever H6 change, this will change, the wording will change. So if I click on Delish, it will say Delish sales per box. So now that the title is generated, I'm going to print orange color in this one. Make a note of this cell address. It's L7, column L, row number 7. So L7. And come back to the chart where we have typed the title manually. Select the title and click on the formula bar, say equal to, and then point to L7. Okay, so this is a little bit of song and dance sequence here. What you are trying to do is first select the title and then click on the formula bar. And then in the formula bar, you would type the address either manually or you will point to the cell like that. So you need to first select the title and then point to that. And when you're done, hit enter. And now you have a title that is linked to a cell. So whenever that cell changes, this title will change. But none of this setup needs to be visible to your boss. Your boss only looks this bit. So when they click on this, they'll see updated titles. You can get a lot more creative with this approach. Here it's a simple one, but you could, for example, write a sentence here that says Yummy's sales per box is average of, so instead of presenting individuals, you can take the average here 16.4. You can say that as a sentence. You could even write sentences like last year it was $14, now it is $16 and all of that. So depending on what data you have, how it is available, what else you're calculating, you can get really creative with these things using that dynamic titles plus the slicer based interaction, which will make the whole thing more fun. All right, so that is the 9th one. We do have the 10th one, but I just want to make sure I'm acknowledging some of these super messages that are coming. Murad has a super sticker. Thank you, Murad. And Pedro has a super sticker as well. Thank you, Pedro, for all of this love and support. Let's see what questions you have put there. Brian says, this is a good one. What happens when you multi-select the items? So this is a scenario for which we have not built the stuff, but if I select 2 items, control and select, delish and juices are picked, but my formula is only listening to H6. So it says delish. Normally, this is where I need to think what is a plausible solution for this problem. If I'm dealing with teams where there is only 4 teams and I can at maximum select all the 4 or any combination of 4 up to selecting just one item, then the wording can be more dynamic. But if you have, let's say, 50 products and you can select 47 or 3 or 12 or any combination, then you need to get more smarter about this. So my favorite approach is I'll look for how many items are selected. right now we are only looking at H6. So instead of that, I'm going to move this down. Count is, and then say count A, maximum of 4 is possible. So I'll select 4 cells and then count how many values are there. Right now 2 have been picked. And then, so instead of team as delish, I would use text join, comma, and ignore empty. We can leave it as true, and then select all the 4 cells. So it will be delish, comma, juices. But if I pick just delish, it will be delish alone because there's nothing else to add. Ignore empty will ignore all the empty cells. And then delish, comma, juices, sales per box is the title. So this is a simpler option. It will get a lot wordier if you pick 3 items. And here is the fun bit. If you select everything, it will say delish, juices, tempo, comma, yummy, sales per box. Now you need to think as a real person, not as a robot generating these, whether that sentence makes sense in a business reporting. What would be a better sentence to write here? For example, you could say sales per box for all teams or something like that. So this is where, depending on what that number is, you could use a if formula here. So if this number is equal to 4, then my sentence will be sales per box for all teams. Else, whatever is the thing there with that. So this will basically say sales per box for all teams, but delish, delish and tempo and juices. And the moment you pick all the 4, it will switch to all teams. So these are some techniques where you get creative with how the data is, what am I combining, and start getting more and more creative with it. Check out some of the other videos, especially the dashboard videos on my channel, where I use this particular technique for making the titles dynamic, and then get some inspiration from there. The basic idea is this. Within Excel, we use slicer harvesting pivot table like that, but you could use the same approach in Power BI as well. In there, you don't have slicer harvesting method. Instead, you would use a DAX measure called selected value, which will tell you what value has been picked from a visual or a slicer in a table column, and then use that, or get more creative with other types of measures. All right, so that is the number 9, which is even better dynamic chart. So we started off with a simple dynamic chart that responds to a slicer, and then we made it even better by responding to have a title that also listens to what's going on and changes the wording and provides a better narrative experience. What's the number 10 tip? This is where how to get more out of your data. So I've shown you 9 techniques, which are all good, but a better way to think about data analysis is get basically all the data analysis that you do is only valuable if you understand what is relevant, useful, or insightful in the real world. So get out of Excel, get out of Tableau or Power BI or Python, whatever it is that you're using, get out of it. Watch the people, understand exactly what is it that is motivating them to ask these questions, what are the relevant factors in the business, understand the domain, and understand what is relevant. And here is a point that I made, which is avoiding blow charts. It sounds funny, but back in my business school days, we used to have, for each course, any course you take where you sit in the classroom and attend the session, you would have a class participation element. And we call this a CP. So class participation element is, it's a mandatory element. So if the course has, let's just say 1 credit, class participation would be 0.1 or 0.2 of that credit. So if you do not participate in the class, you just go to the class, you listen, you don't respond to any questions, you sleep through the sessions, you will get 0 for that 0.1 or 0.2 portion of that credit. So for many of us, getting class participation is a necessary thing. If you don't get it, you will not have perfect grades and it will have adverse impacts. So during the class participation, because it's kind of like a mandated thing, everybody is basically, they want to speak. It doesn't matter what is going on, they'll speak. So the professor would say about some, let's just say we are doing some sales management course. So the professor would say, after launching the advertisement campaign, the company sales went from $100 million to $180 million. Some statement like that. At this point, people would put their hands up and then they say the obvious class participation stuff. So somebody would say, oh, so it means the sales went up by 80%, right? So we would have, some of us would get irritated by these kind of things. So we came up with this word called blinding light of obvious wisdom. Hence the word blow, blinding light of obvious wisdom. So where you're making statements or you're generating charts or you're producing analysis where the whole thing is obvious, it doesn't really matter. Everybody knows this in the business. You don't have to pontificate and you don't have to generate visuals or produce narratives about it. So anytime you are making data analysis, if you do not have the context of domain, you do not understand what is really matters in the real world, you would end up making these kind of blow charts where the things are obvious to everyone and you're just making it for the sake of making it. So start thinking about it and avoid them. A simple example, let's just take the case of Awesome Chocolates. We sell chocolates and chocolates sell more during the holiday season. So we have more chocolates going out in Christmas, New Year, Valentine's Day, the traditional periods when more chocolate is consumed. Now, a sales trend chart where things are going up in December, Jan and Feb is kind of expected. There is nothing obvious about it. It's all obvious. So you don't want to make a big fuss about it and say, hey, look, the sales are going up in December. Of course, they're expected to go up in December because that's the holiday season. So avoid things like that and understand the domain and then see what is more relevant. This is where you talk to people, spend more time and do all of that. But if you want to kind of get a little bit more, especially if you're not working anywhere or you're working somewhere but you're transitioning to something else and you want to know how this is done, feel free to join a course or do an internship or something where you will be able to understand what really matters. So those are the points. If you have the workbook, click on the link. It will take you to my Excel School program, which is an advanced Excel training program. Feel free to check that out and sign up for the course if you would like to learn more of advanced Excel in one place. So on that note, that is the number 10. I hope you found the presentation helpful and the ideas and concepts useful and you take away some of the valuable stuff. I'll make sure I'm saving this file. I'll upload this particular workbook as well into the video description maybe after 30 minutes when we finish. But time now for more questions and see how you enjoyed this. Okay, Satya Kumar has this question. I think you posted this a couple of times. Is it possible to using one table in all workbooks? I tried, it doesn't work, but I believe you have any other option to use that. What do you mean one table in all workbooks? Put the follow up there. I'll check that. JC says, if I add more rows to my tables, how an end user of the dashboard can automatically update the tables or charts? Ideally, whenever you add the data, you would run the refresh process yourself so that the end user only sees the updated stuff. But you can get a little bit creative if you are not able to control this process yourself. So one way is you can generate a last refresh date through Power Query or something, which will show when is the last refresh for the visuals is done on the dashboard itself. So it would probably say last updated on 21st of December 2023 22. You may want to update it. Click here to learn the instructions, which will tell them how to update it. The refresh process is not complicated. They just have to either click on the data refresh button or press the shortcut. Ooh, I didn't mean to press it, but press the shortcut Control Alt F5, which will refresh everything. So it's a simple thing. Don't assume your audience are dumb. Most people will be smart, so they will be able to run this. Alternatively, you can control it. If you're using more tools like Power BI, etc., you should be able to schedule these refreshes as well. So that's another thing. Murad says, thank you, Chandu. Honestly, the best YouTube channel for Excel. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much. I really enjoy talking about Excel, Power BI, and all the data stuff. And it's the community and people like you who encourage me and inspire me and motivate me to share more information, whatever I'm learning, whatever I'm discovering, whatever I'm using. So thank you. Esras Natas sends a super sticker as well. Thank you, Esras. There's I think one more here. Mep as well. Awesome channel, great topics and content. I learned something new with every video. I have integrated my knowledge of Power BI in my work every day. Awesome sense of humor too. Thank you, Chandu. Hello from Canada. Thank you so much. I really appreciate those kind words, and all the best to you. And I went to India for our summer break. It's December, January, summertime in New Zealand. And while I was there, I didn't have so much hay fever, but we got back on 18th of Jan. First 4 days was good. And then now all my allergies are kicking in, and I'm trying to take the medicines, but it's still, my nose gets stuffed the more I talk. I think this is more interesting. Chandra says, what are your thoughts on Chat GPT? Did you explore something within Excel? Yay, Chat GPT. It's everywhere, isn't it? So I had my Chat GPT account. I signed up back in December. I played with it. And then I went to this big holiday, came back. And every time I try, it says Chat GPT is at full capacity or whatever. So I was not able to get more time with it since New Year. But I've been following the conversations on Twitter and fellow Excel and Power BI people who are using it and sharing their thoughts. So I'm excited for Chat GPT. I think this is going to be like one of those things where I remember back in college days, the very first time I used Google search, and feeling that sense of wonder that now I can actually go and find information that I want to do my work better. Because up until that time, you need to remember which website had the information, where it is, or there were other search engines too, but some of them are hit and miss. So this would be one of those things for us as well, assuming they scale well and they're able to offer this service without people getting frustrated when they want to use it. But it's an interesting technology. I'm excited. I'm also slightly nervous about how well tuned the artificial intelligence systems are, and whether, because many times knowledge is not just knowing things but also being aware of what you don't know. So I'm not a data scientist or artificial intelligence expert, so I don't build these kind of systems, so I don't really know what goes inside. But for me, it seems that is a trickier challenge to achieve when you would say I don't know, because saying that or not knowing something helps you enhance what you know. So how do you build that kind of thing? But probably it's done. I don't really know. I have played with it a little bit. I was not super amused by the answers the chat GPT gave because of the way that was going. But again, I understand that it's a conversational thing, so you the more you talk, the better your answers will get. But that was it. What do you guys think? You guys are excited about this? What are you using it, or have you? What is your experiences? Dushan says, love your channel. Do you have a course on Excel for data analytics? Yes, I do. I'll show the. So it's called Excel School. I'll put a link to that in the chat. And it's basically an advanced Excel course for people who are working with the data all the time. So check this one out. This is the link that I have in the workbook as well on the tip number 10. It basically covers all aspects of data analysis that you would do. So right from Power Query to do the data crunching, data cleansing and collection, to formulas and pivot tables and Power Pivot, making charts, spark lines, conditional formats, reports and dashboards, how to make them interactive, formatting, navigation, all of that. So it's a fairly comprehensive course that covers the entire spectrum of data analysis. Some of the people in the chat might have already done this course. So, if anybody has finished, feel free to put a message there to share how you felt about it. But yeah, it's a self-paced course, so you can do it from your home. Unlike this live stream, I mean, this also you can pause and watch, but it's short video, so you can do a 10-15 minutes video, practice it, come back next week for more and continue like that. Wanda says, do you offer one-on-one mentoring? Unfortunately, I don't do anything one-on-one. The closest to that is this live stream. So every month at the end of the month, last Friday or Saturday, I try to do a live stream. Each month the topic will be different, but whatever is either I feel excited about, or if people say, let's have a stream on this particular topic, I'll do it on that. So come to the stream, ask your questions. That way I can help you. But that's the closest. Ali says, I love you. You have an awesome, you're so smart. I love you so much. Thank you so much. I love you as well. Mark says, ChatGPT cannot do formulas better than a good data programmer yet. I have provided it some of my very advanced formulas and it tries to redo them but fails every time. So yeah, this is one of the things that I noticed as well, especially with the GPT and some of the variations of it built into Power BI and Excel as well, that they're probably toned down versions. They're a great help, especially if you're learning and you're not sure who to ask your questions, or you would like to have a buddy right next to you who will constantly provide you that feedback. Because back in college days when I was learning programming or SQL or anything, we would always work in teams so we can bounce that ideas off each other. But nowadays people are learning these, but they're not in college, they're outside in real world and doing some stuff. So you do not have ready access to that kind of an ecosystem where you can bounce the ideas off, or you can talk to a professor or someone who is smarter than you. So this could be that, especially in the early stages. But yeah, don't take everything that it says, just as you wouldn't listen to everything that a friend would say, or even I would say. Take everything with a pinch of salt and see where that goes. Will ChatGPT replace data analyst jobs? Who knows? Will ChatGPT replace itself? That'll be a better question. I don't know. I mean, this is something that everybody seems to be worried about. I wouldn't worry too much about it right now. Even if it does, even if it doesn't, it's not going to do you any good wondering about that. So instead, focus on what you can do. Like, how can you use ChatGPT so that you can be a better data analyst? That will be a better question for you to ask, at least as it stands. Victory says, I have data in two different sheets, but I want to import and merge them, but not all column headers are same. How can I merge data of both sheets? Need stepwise. Sounds like a college assignment to me. Check out, you can use this Power Query to do this. I do have some tutorials on Power Query on the channel, so figure it out. And yeah, all the best. Okay, I think he came back here. For example, we have 100 associates, so we are using Control T to for creating a table or auto update in future. How to use this single table in multiple workbooks? You make the table, then you save the whole thing as a file, save as, and then save it as an Excel template, and then ask them to make a new file from the template every time. So when they make, it'll already come with the table and everything that you set up, and then they use. So that's one option. A lazier option would be make the table, copy and paste it 100 times. So you have 100 files all with the tables. Yeah, choose your pick, or build a simple macro that will add the table, and you can insert that and do it. Lots of different ways to do it. Smart says, you're not on Windows 11 yet. Yeah, I'm not. It's just I'm using a PC here. Microsoft says this cannot be upgraded to Windows 11 because there's some hardware requirements are not met or whatever. So yeah, it works. I don't really mind. All right, so there are lots of other questions coming in, but I feel like those are all out of topic for our session here, which is 10 tricks for data analytics. But if you have any questions on the topics that I covered, put them there, I'll address them. But otherwise, if not, I thank you all again for showing up. It was fun interacting with you. And if you're watching this in the replay, not live, say hello and tell me how you're enjoying it, and if you have got any questions, put that there as well. Once again, I thank you all for attending, and I wish you all a very happy weekend. Our next live stream will be at the end of February. It'll be I think, yeah, same time. So it will be on 24th of February, and I'll try to do one on Power BI next month. So come for that if you want to learn how to use Power BI. And thank you everyone, and yeah, stay safe, and I'll catch you again somewhere else. But yeah, I'll hang around for maybe a few more minutes if you do have questions. But thank you for all of these lovely people who are saying thanks, and you had fun. It was fun interacting with you. I do apologize for my stuffy nose, but yeah, I'm not really unwell or anything. It's just the allergies. So the nose is stuffed. Alex says, is there any way to mimic trim mean in Power Query? You can. Not really sure why you would do this in Power Query though, but I do understand maybe you have a specific need and you want to do it. Power Query is good for cleansing transformations, but these kind of calculations and aggregation operations, you should try and do that through Power Pivot if possible, simply because it's better suited for that. another reason why Power Query is not the place to do trim means or averages is it's kind of like a lazy software. So it wouldn't do an operation until it is absolutely necessary. So what you need for trim mean is you need to exclude the top and bottom, let's just say 10% of values. That means you need to know what is top 10, what is bottom 10. So which means the list needs to be sorted. And sorting is an operation that Power Query thinks is just like a cosmetic UI thing. It doesn't really sort the data. When you sort, it will decide when to sort during the runtime by optimizing the flows. So because of this, it's harder to control the sort. You'll need to buffer and get into more complicated M stuff before it is done accurately. And that is why I feel a trim mean operation is better suited outside of Power Query, simply because of the way internal execution within Power Query happens. But if you do want, you can do it. You just have to sort. You identify where the top and bottom edges of the data are, and then calculate the row offsets, and then use the in-between list to average and do it. You could even write a custom function that does all of this for you and then save it and reuse that or apply that on lists. But yeah, it would get too complicated in my opinion. You should probably try and do it in Power Pivot or bring it to Excel and do it in Excel as well. Julie says, thank you, Chandu. Keep being awesome. You also keep being awesome. Thank you, brother. Lots of love from Bangalore. Akash says that. Thank you. I keep seeing questions like this, Tableau or Power BI. So there's one from Rohit. Oh, he's the same one who asked in different text. I don't know. Why not learn both? Who is stopping you? This is a better question. Do you have any idea to tutorial on Tableau? I do know Tableau well enough that if I open it, I don't feel lost, but I don't use it for my work or client situations. So this is why I've avoided talking about Tableau all this while. But I have a plan to make a Tableau tutorial this year. So watch the channel. It'll be there sometime. Nikki says, is the data analysis with Excel playlist will be sufficient to crack an interview/job? It depends. There are people who tell me that they have watched those videos and got the job. But I don't really know if that is all they have studied or they've used it some other resources as well. And then there are people who tell me they have seen Excel school and got the job. And then there are people who tell me they have followed everything that I have, both paid and unpaid, and still not gotten a job. So I have no idea what works or what doesn't work. So try with it. If you feel stuck or if you think, oh, I could learn better if there is a more structured way of doing it, check out the Excel school program, go for it. But also see if you can learn better through other means. Maybe talk to a colleague who can sit with you, explain it to you and help you understand, or do a small internship or unpaid gig so that you can get a better hands-on experience of doing things. So whatever works for you, do that. There is no one silver bullet that will solve the problems. So yeah, do what you do. Smile says, unfortunately, Excel doesn't have Power Query on Mac and no Power BI on Mac. That's a good one, but I thought Power Query for Mac is kind of released. Yeah, so this is official Microsoft website, import and shape data in Excel for Mac. This has been released recently. Not everything is possible, or I don't really know, but this is Mac. You can use Power Query in Mac right now. Not Power BI though. Power BI is still with Excel, sorry, PC or web. I think the web capabilities are surprisingly good. So if you have Excel on the web, it will work, and you can use it from Mac or PC. It doesn't matter. You just need a browser. So try it out. All right. This is SC. Enjoyed your story from your management days and enjoyed the video. That goes without saying. Thank you. Thank you so much, SC. Akash says, can we apply conditional formatting for different sheets simultaneously in a workbook? Unfortunately, no. You would have to set up separate rules. So this is where templating or copy pasting is a better idea. And Ravi Kumar says SQL, SQL, SQL. I suppose this is some sort of a chant, but if not, I do have SQL videos on my channel. Check that out. There is a playlist. There is a long video. There is a short video. Watch them. You'll have enough information about SQL. All right. That is all for me for now on this live stream. I hope you all enjoyed it. I had loads of fun. It got a little bit heavier towards the end because my nose kept getting stuffy. But I hope you found all the information helpful and useful. And I wish you all the best. Happy data analysis. And I'll catch you again next month in another topic at the last Friday. Of course, there'll be videos in the middle as well as usual. So I'll see you in one of these places. Bye-bye.